Hey everyone, so I'm going to be live February 15th through 17th at Anime Milwaukee in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So if you are there, make sure to stop by and say hi to me if you see me. But if you're not going to be there, that's okay, because the Unlocked app is offering all access to Anime Milwaukee for the entire weekend. You have access to the panels. You will be able to watch all the big events going on that weekend, including a very special Dragon Ball related panel Saturday at noon Central on February 16th, hosted by me and featuring none other than Christopher Sabat himself, the voice of Piccolo, Vegeta, and so many other characters in all of anime. I will be moderating it, and we will be asking him your questions live on the stream. You do not want to miss this historic event. Join us live Anime Milwaukee weekend. Click the link down below in the description and join me, Chris Sabat, and everyone else in what should be a blast of a time. So I picked up Resident Evil 2 on PS4, and I tried to stream it actually over on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Big D Geekdom 101, BIGD, and then my name. But what wound up happening was it was blocked by Capcom, but I moved on and still played the game. Now, I just want to say that I personally, when it comes to old games being remade, if you're going to remake an old game, I think you have to keep the spirit of the old game there while also providing something new and unique as far as gameplay goes, or maybe some bonuses. And I played a lot of remade games, specifically more so remake ports like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest games that get remade, or I guess ported and remade, because they have to enhance the graphics and add some bonus stuff. But when it came to Resident Evil 2, so I want to just say that Resident Evil 2 is one of my all-time favorite PS1 games, and I remember renting Resident Evil 2 on PS1 from Blockbuster, and I remember I didn't know that the canon way of playing the game was Claire A, Leon B. So I started with Leon, and then later on went back to do Claire, and I thought it was such a creative concept how there's two different paths you can take. There's essentially 4 endings, because you have, you don't have to do the Claire B or the Leon B stuff. You don't have to do that, but if you really want to complete the game, you should do it. And I just loved how creative it was and how awesome like the liquor scene was, and the scene when you first see the Tyrant show up, Mr. X. Resident Evil 2 is a true classic in my opinion. So when they were remaking this for PS4, I was pretty excited, because I enjoyed the GameCube Resident Evil 1 remake. I really liked that game a lot. And I've been playing it on PS4, and I gotta say, I really like it. I really, really like this game. Couple of things that I thought were interesting is, it's a remake, but it's not exactly the same as the previous game. There's a couple of small differences here and there in the game when it comes to the story and things like that. Essentially, it is the same story. A couple of small changes here and there. For example, the fight with the alligator in the PS1 version is very different in this version. Very, very different. That's one example of a few other changes. Also, the fight against William Birkin, the first time you fight him, G or whatever, seems to be a bit different in this version. I remember it being like that in the PS1 version. But essentially, they kept most of the stuff the same. And that tells me that they really respected the original game. They respected the fact that the game really doesn't have much to fix. When you remake a classic game, it's not because there's something you have to fix. It's because there's very little that you do, because the game itself is so great. Excuse me. And so when it came to Resident Evil 2's story in the PS4 version, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, the gameplay is interesting because I was expecting it to be a little bit more like Resident Evil 4. But it really wasn't. It really wasn't. It kept the survival horror kind of puzzle-solving, treasure-hunting aspect of the series still there. And I love that it put a focus on that more than just action. But also, it did have sort of like, when you hold the trigger button, the aim button, it did kind of aim from a not a first person, like a third-person perspective. It's a third-person game. Whereas Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3, and Code Veronica didn't have that. They had like the camera in the corner and you move, and then it changes camera, it changes controls. And I know a lot of people didn't like those controls back then. I love them. It just fit that genre so well. Here, it's a third-person game, but the way that the environments are, the way they rotate in this game, I think is just totally fantastic. The graphics are obviously tremendous. I mean, the game looks great. The cutscenes, I think, are great. The voice acting is great. You know, I really can't say enough good things about Resident Evil 2. And if you're a fan of the PS1 version, you'll like this version. There's a couple things I do want to say that I did not like. The first time I played the game, I tried playing it on hard mode, and I was doing relatively well. I got about halfway through the game, and then it just kind of hit me like, okay, I haven't played this game in such a long time. I want to go back and kind of play it on easy mode to remember where everything's at, because when it comes to hard mode, it helps if you know what to do. If you get stuck somewhere and you're not sure where to find this or that, you know, it's not going to be as easy as it would be if you're playing it on the easier mode. So I did that, and I went through the entire game. Hard mode is very challenging. Hard mode is very hard, and some people have complained that it's too hard, and in some cases it is. I died very frequently. Luckily for me, you know, I used the ink ribbons to save, which is much more of an old school kind of style of saving this game in Resident Evil, rather than it being autosave. But, you know, and it had a limited number of saves, of course. But I will say that the difficulty is it makes a lot more sense when you when you understand that you have to know where you're going. It's just a lot easier if you do. Your first playthrough of this game, whether you played the original or not, you probably should not try it on hard mode, and then later on come back and do it on hard mode if you want. I actually have to go back in there and finish my version of hard mode. Who knows what I'm going to run into in my version, because when it comes to hard mode, one of the more annoying things about the game is that you really can't kill. You have to empty an entire clip, take out a zombie. Lickers, forget it. Forget about trying to kill them. It just takes forever, and then they come and they'll slice your head off. And, you know, it's just, you have to run a lot. And I've always been much more of a stop and fight type of guy when I play these games. Not really a fan of running away, but still, you know, it kind of felt, you know, it was maybe a bit too hard. And even standard mode can be a bit challenging for some. So the best thing to do is play through the game on one of the lower difficulties. Then when you know where everything's at, then come back and do hard mode, which I'm working on now. But I still want to beat my campaign of Claire B. I did Leon A, Claire B. Obviously, I'm going to come back later on and do Claire A, Leon B. It's not that different, but there are things about the game that I don't remember, and then when I got to that part, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this from the PS1 version, and I really do hope that they remake Resident Evil 3. You know, it's funny because I thought what they should have done is combined Resident Evil 2 and 3 into one game, to where you play as Leon, Claire, and Jill, because remember, Jill's story takes place at the same time as Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis starts before Resident Evil 2, but ends after. You know, the whole game is essentially takes place at the same time for the majority of the game. You know, they should have just put that in here. You know, why not? Then we could have the Tyrant, Mr. X, and Nemesis in the same game. Which actually, I think they did have no, they never had a game later on, did they? I don't think they did. But I think it would have been great to do something like that and then kind of say, you know, Resident Evil, The Fall of Raccoon City or something like that. But either way, you know, it's fine. I love Resident Evil 2. I wish there were some dodge moves and some more skills in this game that you could do. Once you get caught by a zombie, you know, 3 bites and you're dead. I did not like that. There's no way. Unless you have a knife or a grenade or something, there's no way to even, you know, dodge or anything. I don't like that. It's almost like the game is just purposely annoying, and I don't like the fact that you're walking and a zombie will get you by surprise. Now, obviously, if a zombie gets you by surprise, I do like that as a fan of survival horror games, but what I do not like is I don't like the fact that if you're playing it on hard mode, they do it, and if you're low on life, you're bitten, you're dead. It's like the game is ruthless when it comes to that. It's totally ruthless. But I am surprised the game retained its creepiness factor. It's all there. The footsteps of Mr. X. Boom, 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 boom. You know, all that stuff. You know, I was surprised the game was able to keep that because those old PS1 games just have that kind of creepy vibe. but they successfully did remake the police station and the sewers and the laboratory. Everything looks as good. Actually, I wouldn't say as good. It looks better than the original PS1 version. You know, I can't even tell you how much I love Resident Evil 2, and I replayed it again about 10 years ago on PS1, and now we get to play it one more time on PS4. So definitely pick it up. I know everybody's been playing Kingdom Hearts. I have to beat Kingdom Hearts 2 and all the ones after 1 because I only beat the first one in order for me to catch up. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying Resident Evil 2. I've also been streaming God of War. I did a little bit of it. I'm going to do more probably this week. I think I might stream again. We'll see over on the Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Big D Geekdom 101. Anyways, let me know your thoughts on Resident Evil 2 on the PS4. Did you enjoy the game? Were you hoping for more? I mean, I still haven't finished everything yet, so maybe there is more that I haven't seen yet because I'm looking forward to seeing more of Hunk. We'll see what happens, but did you enjoy the game? Did you like it? Let me know. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to y'all soon.